Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Grand Rapids. The time is now 8 a.m. We are going to get the Committee on Appointments started. We will start with our first action item. We have several this morning. Is there a motion to approve our first item, the resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Tony Baker to the Grand Rapids Historical Commission?
So moved.
Second, any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Item 2, a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Gabriella Hill to the South Division Granville Avenue Corridor Improvement Authority.
So moved.
Second. Good morning, Mayor. Thanks for sitting in for Commissioner Sassi. We're on item 2. It's been moved and seconded. Any conversation about Ms. Hill?
No, just glad to see another member to our SDG Granville CIA. Looking forward to it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Eric Davis to the Southtown Corridor Improvement Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any conversation or discussion here?
Nope.
I echo your sentiments as a member of the Southtown Board. Commissioner, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Item 4 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Nathan Henschel to the Southtown Corridor Improvement Authority. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Item 5 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of John O'Connor to the Uptown Corridor Improvement Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
I guess.
Yeah. If I have to.
We have to. Any discussion?
No, I'll just add, now that John O'Connor has a business in Uptown, I think he'll be a great addition to this board.
Oh,
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm just looking forward to keeping him around in public service in a different capacity than he is now, but glad to keep him around.
All in favor? Excuse me, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Joanna Vanderveen to the West Side Corridor Improvement Authority. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion on item 6?
I think West Side is fully complete now. Cool. Okay. Yep. Looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Hearing none other, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Item 7 is the current board commission vacancy list. We had a lot of items this morning. We have a lot of folks who are going through the vetting process, so I expect a lot of these vacancies will be filled. Are there any items or any boards that folks would specifically want to discuss this morning?
Not from my end. I know, like you mentioned, we've got a lot of people in the vetting process, and I think once many of those go through, many will be fully staffed or fully appointed. Beyond that, I guess we can kind of circle back once those goes through and see where the gaps remain.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor, any comments?
Not so much about the appointments. I do feel like end of the year is a very busy time with a flurry of appointments and reappointments. I just want to make sure with the clerk's office and then the liaisons that they're reaching out as soon as we are appointing these folks, especially if they haven't served on these boards in the past, to get them oriented and onboarded. So I'll trust. I know it's a busy time for election season as well, clerk, but we really want to make sure that the liaisons are doing that so that people feel welcomed and informed and prepared to start serving.
Absolutely. Members of this committee will be meeting with the deputy city clerk to talk a little bit more about process and just kind of check in on those items, especially with some vacancies and transitions in the department. We thought it would be a good time to check base. Everything from orientation to process, communication, to recognition, making sure we have consistent practices in place and timely practices in place to the point of some of our conversations. So we have that planned for later today, and unless we have a marathon executive session, we hope that we trust that will happen today.
Good.
Any further comment? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 8:04. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Pardon?
morning, everyone. We'll call Fiscal Committee to order here at 8:30. First item on the agenda this morning is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign certain routine program documents for activities of the Community Development and Economic Development Departments for 2025 calendar year. Can I get a motion? Support?
Good morning. So the subject line really sums it up. This is a routine item that we bring every year at this time to make sure that we can execute certain documents for a variety of programs in community development and economic development.
Very good. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Connie. Item 2, resolution authorizing a contract for an amount of $25,000 with the West Michigan Welcome Plan Collaborative.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
I can jump in on this. Mr. Davis couldn't make it. So, this is $25,000. This is, part of our welcome plan as described. And basically, the program's run through the Kent County Office of Inclusion. Brandon did give me a few notes that the work involved with this has to do with providing assistance in translation service, grant writing. You might have heard the Regional Collaborative Network grant is an example of that. And then assistance at the Gathering Festival. There's 2 anchor festivals they do every year. And as far as that, one other program they do offer is a driver's license toolkit to help immigrants and refugees navigate through that process.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $397,478 for Town and Country Shopping Center.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Bergman, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this project brought individual water service lines to each of the individual businesses located in the Town and Country Shopping Center. It was awarded back on April 9th, total not to exceed project amount of $897,000. We're now seeking your approval of this substitution of $397,478 between water system fund project accounts to make the funding whole for the project.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $385,095 for low-lift crib chlorine line repair at the Lake Michigan filtration plant.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So there's a 4-inch chlorine line that runs out to the south raw water intake out at the Lake Michigan filtration plant to control zebra mussels. This total project cost was $1,063,130. Seeking your approval today of that $385,095 budget substitution, again, between water system fund project accounts to make the funding whole.
Very good. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 5, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $310,850 for various locations lead service line replacement 2024-1.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
This project consists of 505 lead service line replacements that are being planned in coordination with various Vital Streets resurfacing projects that are coming up. The total project not to exceed amount is $4,054,900. Of that, the water system anticipates receiving principal forgiveness in the amount of just over $1.8 million, as this is funded in part through a drinking water revolving fund loan or grant program. The work is now underway and will be completed by fall of next year, so asking for your approval of this budget substitution, again, between water system fund project accounts to make the funding whole.
Questions?
Chair, I don't have a question. I do think, though, it's important to highlight the number of lead service lines that we've replaced since 2017. I see it in the memo, but just think we should highlight it that we're now over 6,000, and I know we have more to do, but I'm glad to see that we're making progress.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Very good. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $164,600 for the 60th Street Caledonia Pump Station.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Yes, but I think we skipped number 6. There were 2 lead service lines.
Sorry.
One was for 3.
Do you want me to do 7 first?
It's already on the table, so yeah, let's do
Sure.
that first.
All right, so this project will install a new booster pump station on 60th Street that's providing service to Caledonia Township. The project was awarded on July 16th. The total project not to exceed amount is just under $4.9 million. Again, DWRF funding and water system funding involved, but seeking your approval today of that $164,600 budget substitution to provide the necessary funding for the project.
Very good. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I'm sure their township supervisor will be happy.
Yep. We'll go back to item number 6, the resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $342,385 for various locations lead service line replacement 2024-2.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
So yeah, this is the second lead service line contract of 2024. 460 service lines plan to be replaced as part of this work. It was awarded on June 4th. Work is underway, again, with scheduled completion of next fall, seeking your approval of that budget substitution amount between water system fund project accounts.
Very good. Questions? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8, resolution authorizing a budget substitution of $321,340 for water main in 60th Street, Broadmoor Avenue, Patterson Avenue, and East Paris Avenue.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
And this is connected to that pump station. This will provide water main connections to provide service ultimately to that 60th Street pump station. Project was awarded on July 16th with the total not to exceed amount of $4.3 million. Seeking your approval of that $321,340 budget substitution between water system fund accounts.
Very good. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 9 is our ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2024-2023 for fiscal year 2025, Amendment Number 4.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren, good morning.
Okay, we have quite a few this morning, so with your permission, I will get through it as fast as I can, if there are questions, of course. Our first item is Fairfax Imaging Project. This is between the Income Tax and Treasurer's Department, generating efficiencies for $232,000 in the General Operating Fund. The second one is the Monroe Center Ramp Elevator Project. This is just appropriate another 1.7, a little over, well, just under 1.8 million towards that. Number 3, the fleet capital carry forward request. Traditionally, we do carry forwards at the beginning of the fiscal year. This year, given how we performed in fiscal year 24, we decided to delay those carry forwards. It's a mid-year to see how the department was performing on their budget. With fleet, though, given they have larger purchases, this is an instance where we had to move forward with their carry forward requests sooner. Next, we have 2 grants out of the 61st District Court, one for the Drug Sobriety Court, and then the other one is the Kent County Office of Community Corrections Grant. Number 6, another 61st District Court grant. This is the Sobriety Court Expansion Program. All these are annual grants we've received in the past. Number 7, we have an ARPA supported payment out to Degage Ministries. This is for a day center operation for $20,000. Number 8, we get into the fire grants now. This is the Hartford Fire Safety Education Program grant. And then we have the SAFER Grant Award. So followed by that, we have the MDLEO Grant Award for firefighter turnout gear. Then we go to the police department for number 11. This is the Auto Theft Prevention Authority Grant, as well as the Improve the Criminal Justice Response Program Grant. And then number 13, finally, for the police department, we have the DHS Regional 6 Equipment Grant. Number 14, out of the Parks and Rec Department, the Ottawa Hills Park Improvement Grant. And then number 15, digging into forestry operations, we're using a little bit of fund balance in the Parks Operating Fund to get it, dig more into those priority 2 trees. Number 16, infrastructure investment miscellaneous project account, just appropriating, I believe some of this up. This was specifically towards, in association with an MDOT project. Number 17, the Michigan Enhancement Grant for Kendall Street Fire Station. We've talked about the state grant in association with putting together our fiscal year fiscal year 25 capital program. So this is receiving the money and then appropriating it, getting it to work. Number 18, we have the Grand River Revitalization Project, another $716,000 towards those efforts. Number 19, Lions Square bonds. This is the interest revenue we've earned on those bonds, so we're able to, we've been holding the bond proceeds, obviously spending them as the project goes on, but as the proceeds sit there, our city treasurer does a fine job making sure we earn good interest on it so we can either enhance the project or help fund the, things should things come over budget. This is just a great thing to have interest earnings that we can apply towards the project. Number 20, we have replacement of lead service lines, $42,000 in the Water Improvement Fund, 21. We're going to do some investment in our SCADA networks using ARPA funding. And then 22, this was going to be a mid-year ad, but we're going to forward the staffing addition in the comptroller department. This is for a financial analyst 1. That's focused centrally on our fixed assets, knowing that we did position ads last year, recognizing the additional work our city's doing around in these various capital projects. They've grown greatly. As a result, our asset base has grown greatly. So there's, of course, the back end of the house, the accountancy behind that. So we are forwarding that request now. Finally, contingent balance remains at $1.5 million. So.
Very good. Colleagues, questions about any of the items on the bid list or the budget list? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Same. Motion carries. Item 10 is our bid list resolution for October 22, 2024. Need a motion?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Only one item on there this morning. Any questions about that? Or two items. Any questions about that? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 11, our comptroller's warrant report for the period September 24, 2024 through October 7, 2024. Mr. Comptroller.
Good morning, Mayor and City Commissioners. For the period referenced, we released cash payments totaling just over $42 million. That amount includes approximately $5.4 million for our employee payroll expense and $32,689 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, 85 income tax refunds were issued and 1,450 checks and electronic payments were issued. And the details of those payments that exceeded $20,000 are included in the tables on the following pages.
Very good. Questions for the comptroller? All right, hearing none, that report is received and filed. And our final item this morning is our treasurer's report for the period September 25, 2024 through October 7, 2024. Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. With our report today, just wanted to point out we're still in kind of a holding pattern, waiting to see what the Fed's going to do in the next couple months. Projections range wildly from 0.25% to 0.75% being the probably the highest rate they might drop. I'm not of that. My mind is more like we might see a quarter of a point drop between now and the end of the year. That's my opinion. Like I say, when we talk about markets, they're all across the board on what they believe. We're still going to wait for more economic data to come in before the Fed's going to move on that. They're still solidly grounded in waiting for the data to support moves and changes. With the report today, though, we have $753 million in funds earning purchase yield of 3.67. But to Ms. Claren's point, when we talk about having to recognize interest on bond proceeds, if we look at the 5 bond proceed items on our portfolio, they're earning between 4.75% and 5.32%. So because it's still short-term money right now, really, just for the next 2 years as we spend down these monies, we're hopefully going to still continue to earn good interest on those dollars until they're spent down.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the treasurer? All right, hearing none, that report is received and filed, and we will conclude fiscal here at 8:45. Thank you, everyone.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is approximately 9:15. We'll go ahead and get our Community Development Committee meeting underway. We have 10 items on the agenda today. Item number 1 is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Strictly FX Incorporated for indoor special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with WWE Raw on November 11, 2024.
So move.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
All right.
Chief?
Good morning, everyone. This is an interesting one for me. We received basically a phone book manual to review. WWE is using lasers, flames, smoke, snow, pyro, cryo, CO2. But I've been assured by Inspector Jensen that he has been through that whole manual and will be on site and do the inspection. So it was a lot of hours making sure it's going to be safe.
Awesome, thank you. Sounds like there's a lot going on. Any questions or comments, colleagues?
You've never been to WWE?
I have not, no.
Wow.
Want to go?
No, not again. Had my turn.
All right.
Good.
All right, hearing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Item number 2 is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Grand Rapids Ballet Company for indoor special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with the Grand Rapids Ballet on December 11th, 2024.
So move.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
This is not as exciting as WWE, but we have also reviewed the plan. Everything's squared away. Grand Rapids Ballet should be good to go.
Awesome, thank you. Questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 3 is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for November 12, 2024 to consider a transformational brownfield plan for the Fulton and Market redevelopment project at 317, 21, 37, 41, 45, 47, 53, and 63 Market Avenue Southwest, as well as 216 Fulton Street West.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. I believe we have Ms. Rainero on this one.
Yes, good morning, thank you.
morning.
This is a project that includes 10 parcels bounded by Market, Fulton, the River, and 131. And it's a rather sizable deal, being a transformational brownfield plan. It's our 3rd one for the city of Grand Rapids, and it has been around and in the paper, so I'm just going to lightly dust it here for us. But 3 high-rise towers, including office, residential, and a hotel condo building. 671 housing units, that's both apartments and condos. $797 million in total development costs. Parking associated to each of those towers, and then approximately 1,900 full-time jobs. This is a pretty big piece of the process. We took this project to our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board last week for recommendation, and it was successfully approved at that meeting. The project was also presented an overview at the Economic Development project team meeting last month for an overview of the project, and we anticipate these next steps in the coming weeks, rounding out the commission process with the public comment here on November 12th. I'm happy to answer any questions. I feel like there's a lot here to dive into.
Yeah, thanks for that info. And just for those listening in, for clarity's sake, this is just for the public hearing for people to come share some thoughts and feedback on the project. Yeah, and then I know you mentioned the EDPT meeting. I was able to attend that 2 weeks ago, and I think we had some really good discussion on the commitments to the Affordable Housing Fund and the money, several, 8.5, I think, million.
$8.5 million has been proposed, yes.
Yep, so I think that's certainly something to note. And then I also appreciated their discussing kind of the engagement process that they foresee once they get to the point of finding tenants for the retail, the ground floor businesses, and engaging a lot of our local businesses that already exist to see if there's interest there, and so some support from the DDA. And then I believe you mentioned the DDA and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority boards passed this one, I think, unanimously last week.
The BRA was last week, and the DDA was the week prior.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, if people have questions, I definitely encourage them to check out the EDPT meeting from 2 weeks ago. I think it was really informative for me. So with that said, I'll open up to my colleagues for some questions if they've got any.
I have a question. Because this includes the parcel that housed the former Charlie's Crab restaurant.
Yep.
Do we know, has there been any incentives provided for that development at that time that is going to be, again, given for that particular site. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if there's been some incentives given already for that particular site at that time, are we doing something for that site again? Is that, do we know at all or not?
Is that the creation of the Charlie's Crab or like a recent demolition?
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out if that was quite some time ago when Charlie's
Yeah.
Crab was built. So I don't even know what incentives plan were available at that time that the city provided for that particular project.
I will have to look into that one.
Okay.
Let me have some time there.
Sure. I'll note too, this transformational brownfield plan, that there was some updated legislation at the state level that opened it up to additional activities for brownfield funding. So I know that piece is at least different from back when Charlie's Crab would have initially been built. But yeah, I'll let Mr. Raniero follow up on that one. Any questions from Commissioner Knight? Nope. All right. I'll call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Item number 4 is a resolution approving a construction letter agreement for John Ball Zoo parking expansion.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Mr. Berkman.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. This will facilitate work that the zoo is planning to do involving the expansion of their current parking area. The letter agreement before you covers public improvements that'll happen within our right-of-way, including new curb and gutter and a new drive approach that they're planning on Butterworth Street. There'll also be a relocation of a small section of water main in Butterworth to accommodate a new storm sewer lateral. And they're reconfiguring the intersection of John Ball Park Drive and Park Street. As part of that, there will be a future request coming to you for a vacation of a small segment of that right-of-way, 51 feet by 66 feet, where currently the west end of Park extends past that intersection. They'll be taking that out and just essentially creating a corner there and no longer having access off of that location. The agreement before you defines the conditions under which the work will be performed and covers the city's costs of services associated with administration of the project.
Great, thanks. And maybe you could speak to, I know, so the zoo is owned by the county, operated by the county and the zoo board. Could you maybe just speak to what the city's relationship, I think, with this item, how that interacts with them owning the property and running it?
Yeah, so there's a nuance here of what's before you is a construction letter agreement. Oftentimes you see a construction agreement, which is typically with the developer, and associated with that, there's an escrow deposit that they're giving. When we're working with another local jurisdiction, in this case the county, we have a separate format or form, if you will, which is the letter agreement. But since they're still impacting our rights of ways and our assets that we will ultimately maintain, we just kind of spell out the roles and responsibilities associated with that project.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, colleagues? Nope. All right. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 5 is a resolution accepting an easement at 55 Leonard Street Northeast in connection with Grand River Edges Trail East, Leonard Street to Ann Street for $15,000.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
This property is located at the northwest corner of Leonard and Monroe. The easement will allow for the what's currently a sidewalk along the north side of Leonard to be widened to a pathway width associated with the construction of the Leonard to Ann Trail. The compensation of $15,000 was based on an appraisal we had obtained and will come from the Capital Improvement Fund. So requesting your acceptance of this easement.
All right, thanks. Any questions or comments, colleagues? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Bringing us to item number 6, this is a resolution approving a 3-year extension for professional architectural services and an increase in the amount of $6 million with the total amount not to exceed $11 million over the 6-year agreement period.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So we sought qualification packages from architectural consultants back in 2022 through an RFP process, and subsequently entered into a 3-year term agreement with 25 of those consultants that responded to that request. We commonly utilize this term agreement for various parks and facilities projects and others as well, but a few examples, Anabawan Park improvements, the accessibility improvements we're planning here at City Hall with the elevator servicing the parking garage decks, the Fulton to Wealthy East Riverfront Trail, Canal and 6th Street Parks, Plaza Roosevelt Park, Roosevelt Park Lodge, and finally Calder Plaza, the surface deck waterproofing that we're doing. So those just 7 projects alone total $1.7 million. Many others have been authorized under this already. So we are approaching that $5 million authorization limit that was set back in 2022. And we noted that at that time it may be necessary to approve additional funding in the event that we reach that limit. And that's why we're here today before you with this request. So seeking an additional $6 million authorization as part of this resolution, and then requesting that we renew for an additional 3-year period, which would extend this term agreement through February of 2028.
Okay, thanks. And this $6 million will bring us to 2030, essentially, or around there?
To 2028. So
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yep. Any other questions or comments, colleagues? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Item number 7 is a resolution approving an agreement with MDOT and authorizing expenditures in an amount not to exceed $10,704,100 for the total share, or the local share of costs for the reconstruction of Division Avenue from Fulton Street to 345 feet north of Crescent Street.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So this is for next year's reconstruction project that will follow the street lighting and utility improvements project that's currently underway. The project will run north of Fulton, and it's important to stress that we will not touch Fulton again next year, and we're rapidly working to try to get that back open here shortly. But so from north of Fulton up to south of Michigan. Work will include water main, some sewer separation, new pavement, of course, sidewalks, ADA ramps, 79 street trees, 5 new traffic signals, and separated raised bike lanes, as well as ornamental lighting. There are federal funds included as part of this project of just over $1.7 million. So the project will be administered through MDOT, who is planning to bid it on November 1st. So that's why the agreement is before you through MDOT. We're also anticipating that the Downtown Development Authority will consider a request for their share of the project costs at their upcoming November 13th meeting. That amount is $892,710, which covers the upgrade associated with the decorative lighting and some anticipated repairs associated with the snow melt system in Monroe Center. So that requested authorization it will be considered at their meeting, and so what I'm seeking from you today would be contingent upon that authorization coming on November 13th. So ultimately requesting your approval for the MDOT agreement and that authorization of our local share, total not to exceed $10,704,100. That'll come from a variety of funding sources, including the Water System Fund, Sewer System Fund, Capital Improvement Bond Series 2021, which covers the street lighting piece, as well as the Vital Streets Fund and the DDA.
Okay, thanks. Colleagues, any questions on this one?
So Mr. Berkman, the total amount of the project is the $10,704,000.
That's our local share. So when you add to that the federal fund amount of 1.7 million, that should take you then to the total that is referenced in the memo. I'm just zooming down
It's going to be somewhere around 12.
Yeah. Yeah, 12.4 million is the total estimated project cost.
I'm not that good at math either. And do you know how long the time frame in this project to be completed? like, Division has been a pain
It has.
in Fulton for quite a while.
Quite a while, yes. Yeah, and there's just a substantial amount of work that's been going on this whole season that has involved not only our street lighting duct bank and primary power that's being installed, but consumers, facilities, vicinity, AT&T. This is a significant hub area for them. So just a lot of coordination that we knew would take the entirety of this construction season. This project was planned 4 years ago, and on the forefront, one of those utilities said they would need a year and a half on their own just to complete their work. So we've compressed that to this whole construction season, but the next year project, the reconstruction, will take the entirety of the season as well, just given the amount of work that is involved and the coordination that's involved with still completing some of that utility work that's wrapping up now. We're going to get it open for winter. It'll just be temporary asphalt, but then we'll come back in the spring and begin the reconstruction effort.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question, Commissioner. Yeah, Division Fulton's geographic center of the city, probably one of the busiest intersections I would imagine in the city. So it's a lot of work, a lot of hands from different departments and organizations making that happen. But yeah, it'll look great when it's done. I think the raised separated bike lanes are something people are really excited about too. So yeah, definitely eyes on the prize for that one. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 8 is a resolution awarding a contract with Diversco Construction Company Incorporated for primary power extension in Front Avenue from Leonard Street to Webster Street, installation of primary power to our 1500 Scribner Avenue property in the amount of $889,657.95, with a total amount not to exceed $1,324,009.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported, Mr. Berkman.
So this is part of the overall relocation of city facilities and services from 201 Market to our new 1500 Scribner campus. This project will install, as the title read, the dedicated duct bank that'll go from Leonard north to the Scribner location, and then that'll provide the means to convey the dedicated electrical feed from our substation at 1101 Monroe to power those city facilities through city primary power. Received 3 bids. Diversco provided that low bid of $889,657, which was under the estimate of just over 1.07 million. They will be using an 8.1% MLBE participation rate, so requesting your approval of the award to go to Diversco, and that total not to exceed of $1,324,009 will come from the Capital Improvement Fund Bond Series 2024.
Great, thanks. Any questions on that one, colleagues? Discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 9 is a resolution awarding a contract with Anlon Corporation for Riverside Park Bridge preventative maintenance in the amount of $377,244.09, with a total amount not to exceed $622,200.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So we have 23 bridges in the city that are under the city's jurisdiction and maintenance responsibilities. This is the only one that is in poor condition, and so this project will remedy that. It's located within Riverside Park. It will repair the concrete, upgrade the guardrail, improve the pavement, and install riprap to protect the concrete abutments from erosion and scour. We've already performed the muscle survey and relocation work as part of this planned project, which is a condition of the Eagle permit. And while we had those folks out there doing that for the river project, we asked that they stay and focus on this small area as well. We did receive 2 bids for the project. Anlon was the low in that amount of just over $377,000. So seeking your approval of the award to Anlon, and the total not to exceed of $622,200 will come from capital improvement funding and ARPA funding.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments on that one, colleagues?
No, just trying to picture in my head where this particular bridge is in Riverside.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
It's not at North Park.
So there's kind of the lagoon, I think it's called, area where you have the kayak launch, and as you head out to the river from there, you go under a small bridge. This is that bridge.
Got it.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. That'll bring us to our last item, number 10, which is a resolution awarding a contract with Lodestar Construction Incorporated for rotomilling resurfacing of streets at various locations, contract 2024-3 in the amount of $2,876,791.50 with a total amount not to exceed $3,814,850.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So this is our third rotomill resurface contract that we've let in 2024. It contains 22 street segments totaling over 5.3 miles, but also reserves the right to be extended or added to, as we commonly do with these rotomill resurface contracts. It's covering work primarily in the southeast part of the city. Lodestar provided the low bid of that were received of $2.88 million, which was under the estimate of $3.18 million. Lodestar will be utilizing an 11.5% MLBE participation rate, utilizing L&O Construction to perform the concrete work associated with the project. Contract is for a 2-year period, and again, reserves the right to be extended at the city's option or added to as the city may deem fit. So asking for your approval to award this contract to Lodestar, and that total not to exceed authorization of $3,814,850 will come from the Vital Streets Fund.
Okay, thanks. And I'm trying to remember for this one, are the locations for that these projects are slated for, is that in the full memo in case people want to go see if their streets might be impacted?
It's not, but we do, I have that listing of streets, there's 22 of them, and every time we plan for rotomill work, we send out a notification to everybody that's on that list well in advance, giving a broad range of when that might occur, because it is a fast and rolling operation.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it gets to, I want to say it's within 2 weeks or so of actually occurring, they'll get another notification. So if anybody is listening and living along that's a stretch that will be touched by this, they'll receive contact, but they can also call 311 and get in touch with the engineering department, and we can share that list as well.
Okay, excellent. All right, any other questions or comments on that one? All right, hearing, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. And that will conclude our agenda for today. It's 9:37 in the morning. I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And then just a reminder, we've got a committee of the whole in here at 10 a.m.
morning, everyone, and welcome to this lovely Tuesday, October 22nd, for our Committee of the Whole meeting. So, Commissioners, we have a couple action items today, but I'm going to kick us off with the proclamation momentarily. We do have an executive session, so I will call for that after our fourth item. And then we'll remain up here and before we go into the executive session for two briefings. We have a presentation on Arts Impact Study, and then we have a partner update from our Grand Rapids Housing Commission. So I see the president of the Housing Commission with us today, and we'll hand the floor over to her to share with us some of the great work that they're doing and provide an update. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to come down here and do the proclamation, but I also want to recognize this year's Mayor's Youth Council members who are with us this morning. I've had a chance to spend time with them. Some of them are returning, some are new. They'll be with us at City Hall all day today learning about city government. So I'm going to ask them to stand up so everyone knows who they are. So if you are a member of my Mayor's Youth Council, go ahead and stand up. If you see them, yes. If you see them around City Hall, please welcome them and help them kind of kick off the year to a great start. This will be my last year working with them, and I told them when I met with them last week that they're in a unique position this year because they get to spend a couple months with me and then a couple months with the next mayor. And so welcome. Good to have you all joining us today, and I hope you have a great day here at City Hall. So you can sit down if you want. And then I'm going to go up here to do this proclamation for Lights On After School. All right, I'm going to ask Shannon from our community's children to come up here and join me. We have some guests with us today. So I'm going to read this proclamation, and then I'm going to hand it over to Shannon to take it from there. All right, so whereas research shows that children who regularly attend after-school programs improve their self-confidence, school performance, and school attendance, and whereas over 8 in 10 parents in Michigan say that after-school programs help working parents keep their jobs, whereas after-school programs inspire career and skill development programming, as well as physical and mental wellness that support learning, whereas these programs require community investment from all of our sectors to ensure quality after school for all young people and that it is sustainable. Whereas the City of Grand Rapids is committed to supporting quality after school programs for young people where they can learn, thrive, and be safe. Now, therefore, I, Rosalind Bliss, Mayor of our great city of Grand Rapids, do hereby proclaim October 24th as Lights On After School Day in Grand Rapids. And we do this to lift up the importance of after-school programs and urge everyone to support this national day that shines the brightest of lights on programs that provide young people opportunities to reach their North Star. And then it is signed by me. And as I hand this to Shannon, I'll just say I was a beneficiary of after-school programs. So when I grew up, some of you know, I think I've talked to my Mayor's Youth Council about this before. In high school, I was a part of the Upward Bound program, and one of the first in my family to go to college. And it was because of some of the supports that I received both in school and during after-school programs. So it's a really important day that we highlight and also that we continue to support young kids as they reach their North Star. Ms. Shannon, take it from there. I'll give this to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Commissioners, City Manager, appointed officials, and staff. So Grand Rapids is one of 8,000 communities around the nation that is celebrating Lights On After School and the role and impact Lights On After School or out-of-school time programs play in the lives of young people. For every one young person attending an out-of-school time program in the state of Michigan, there are 4 other youth on a waiting list. So that amounts to 750,000 youth waiting to get into an out-of-school time program. Our Community's Children is a public-private partnership between the City of Grand Rapids Public Schools, and community partners. And we manage the Expanded Learning Opportunities Network, ELO network. And our purpose is to promote and align community efforts in the provision of quality after-school programs. And I would love to have Christy Konech, who is our ELO Leadership Council Chair, to the mic to say a few words about the importance of after-school programs. Christy?
Good morning, friends. I'm glad to be here before all of you today. And I want to think about 3 words when we think about after school. The first word is compass. The second word is light bulb. And the third word is life preserver. For some of our young people, after-school programs are a compass. They point and guide our young people and help them to discover what they're interested in, what their passions are, and where their gifts lie. It gives them a space among their peers to practice what it looks like to be a future engineer, a football coach, a teacher, or even a mayor. For others, after school is a light bulb. It's filled with aha moments. When a student discovers how something works, or the process a writer takes to create the next great work of literature, or how the notes on a piano fit together to create beautiful music that will move your soul. For other students in our community, and actually parents too, after school serves as a life preserver. It's where kids identify that they're not alone in a mental health struggle, or that there are alternatives to joining in behavior that makes them popular for leading in the wrong direction. It's where the student in foster care discovers that they belong and that they're not falling through the cracks, and there's not a statistic next to their name. In order to make after-school work for everyone, it requires each one of us as leaders in our community to serve as a spoke in the wheel. So whether you're a business leader who sponsors a football team, so whether you are a teacher who says, I will step in and mentor this student, whether you're a community member who makes proclamations like we see today, thank you for standing in the gap for our young people in Grand Rapids. We need to offer access to high-quality after-school programming in every neighborhood that's both affordable, accessible, and enjoyable for all of our young people, no matter who they are and what their interests are. So today's proclamation stands as a guidepost for our city to mark a season, acknowledging that we are a city that creates expanded learning opportunities and safe spaces so that kids aren't just kids, but they're leaders. They're discovering, they're turning on light bulbs and having their aha moments, just like each one of us adults in this room had opportunities. Grand Rapids is a city that cares about youth, and we are behind them in the next generation. So on behalf of ELO, we want to thank our city leaders, Mayor Bliss, and our commissioners. Thank you for recognizing Lights On After School and today's proclamation that says we are committed to investing in youth so that they know their community is behind them at every age and every stage. So we hope to see you at the Lights On After School Pre-Bash, the 23rd of October from 4:30 to 7:30 at the Children's Museum. It's open and free for all. We'd love to have you there. Thank you, Commission. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Christy. I do want to acknowledge the ELO members that may be in the audience. I saw Maggie from the Children's Museum. We've got representatives from the YMCA. Steph from Granville Avenue Arts and Humanities. Thank you for being here, and anyone else that is part of our ELO network. I also want to bring up our student, Oscar Gomez Gutierrez. He is an 11th grade student at City High School. He's also part of our Mayor's Youth Council, and he's going to say a few words about the impact the Mayor's Youth Council has had on his life.
Hi, everybody. I'm Oscar Gomez Gutierrez. Being part of the Mayor's Youth Council has been a transformative experience for me. This after-school program has given me the opportunity to engage with local leaders, connect with other students, and better understand the real issues facing our community, as well as how our city officials are working to solve these issues. Through the Mayor's Youth Council, I've gained the confidence in sharing my ideas, learn how to collaborate on projects, and develop valuable leadership skills that I know will benefit me in the future. More importantly, it has empowered me to recognize that even as young people, we have the voice in shaping the direction of our city, whether it's through volunteering or speaking to our city officials. Through my time on the council, I've come to understand how local government truly works behind the scenes. I've learned how elected officials, such as the mayor and the city council members, play key roles in decision-making, and how appointed officials carry out these decisions to keep the city functioning, even when challenges occur. Participating in subcommittees has also shown me the importance of teamwork in addressing city issues like public safety, community development, and city planning. This experience has deepened my appreciation for engagement and inspired me to stay involved in public service, knowing how impactful even the smallest actions can be. Thank you.
Welcome to the picture. All right. See a picture? Steve here. Or Zach, you want to grab a picture? Your comments. All right, here we go. Minute. Awesome, thank you. Thank you. That's great. This is precious. Good to see you. All right, thank you, everyone. Nice job again, Oscar. It's awesome. Love hearing our youth speak. All right, commissioners, that will take us to our first action item before us today, and this is a resolution amending City Commission Policy 400-01, investment program and policy to align the references to the annual financial report with the name of the document established by the Government Finance Officers Association. It's a mouthful. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have our city treasurer, Mr. Globinski, here to tell us about this item.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a housekeeping item. From time to time, what happens is with the Government Finance Officers Association, they might change some terminology. This is simply going in and updating our document from our previous comprehensive annual financial report to the term annual comprehensive financial report. So this is just simply updating the document. It does not change any of our guidelines or policies within that program, our investment program. It's just a name change.
Thank you. City Commissioners, any questions on that? All right, I'll say how much I appreciate, and I know I speak for my colleagues too, your service and your work here. So
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome. Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution authorizing an agreement with STX Commodities LLC to market and sell D3 and non-D3 renewable natural gas, including renewable identification numbers, or as we refer to them as RINs, and manage the regulatory requirements associated with the Environmental Protection Agency's Biogas Regulatory Reform Rule. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. City Manager, did you want to say anything about this to tee it up?
Thank you, Mayor. This item will help us prepare for changes that are happening both in the market as well as with our partners, as we have previously partnered with DTE and the Rapid and the city in terms of not only plans for constructing the biodigester, but we had partners to sell the gas that would produce revenue to help service the debt. And what you'll hear from the staff is some of the regulatory changes that impacted the nature of the industry as well as the partnership, and a plan that would allow us to move forward without having uninterrupted revenue to continue to service the debt of the biodigester. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Oots.
All right, Mr. Oots. And I also want to recognize we do have representatives from the Rapid here with us today, including the president, Ms. Deb Prado. So,
I did not see her today. Good to see you.
all right.
Good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this morning. During 2023, the Environmental Protection Agency adopted new rules surrounding the renewable fuel standards with the biogas regulatory reform rules that were going to impact the industry effective January 1st, 2025. These upcoming changes were communicated to the City Commission in March and June of 2024. In response to the biogas regulatory reform rules and changes, the Rapid chose to release an RFP this summer for a contractor to manage and maintain their compressed natural gas equipment, manage reporting and regulatory requirements, and provide 100% of the required RNG to their facility. This was a notable development as the Rapid was an original party to the development of the city's biodigestion operation. They receive 100% of the RNG produced via the original agreement with DTE, and this comprised 60% of the Rapid's total RNG needs. It was a component of the city's bond repayment planning for the asset. The city submitted a response to provide 60% of the RNG required to run the Rapid CNG buses, but was unable to submit a response that included the management, maintenance, regulatory requirements, and the additional 40% of the RNG required. It's likely that the city would not be awarded the contract to sell gas to the Rapid, and as a result, identified a path forward to secure a buyer for the biogas produced. The City of Grand Rapids Environmental Services Department issued an RFP, or request for proposals, seeking qualified firms to provide services for water resource recovery facility to serve as a broker to market and sell its renewable natural gas and manage the regulatory requirements of the Environmental Protection Agency's biogas regulatory reform rules. The changes from the EPA rules affect how renewable identification numbers from RNG are generated and where they are generated at. The RINs formerly were generated on dispensing. Now RINs must be generated at the uprating skids at the Water Resource Recovery Facility prior to entry to the DTE pipeline interconnect. Part of the city's contract with DTE included DTE purchasing all D3 and assigning RINs and selling both the RNG, the RINs, and completing the regulatory work associated with the RINs. Because of this change, they can no longer complete the regulatory work of assigning RINs for the city. Current contracts with DTE to purchase the city's RNG and RINs, as well as complete the regulatory work of creating the RINs, will be terminated early effective November 30th of 2024. The city's interconnect agreement to the gas pipeline with DTE will remain in effect, and DTE is willing to sign an agency authorization agreement with other contractors that the city contracts with to ensure the city can move the RNG through the interconnect system. The city also has a contract with Weaver to act as the quality assurance plan provider to complete the engineering review and other required documents necessary to submit to the EPA for legacy site registration. This approval from EPA is expected to come by the end of the year. 4 firms responded to the city's RFP and submitted proposals. Staff from ESD, Public Services Group, and Purchasing reviewed the proposals against the RFP criteria. These include company overview, professional qualifications, references, and experience, project management plan, methodology, and finally cost. Based on the review, staff is recommending the approval of STX Commodities, LLC, to market and sell D3 and non-D3 qualified RINs and RNG, and managing the regulatory requirements associated with the EPA's biogas regulatory reform rule for a 1-year term with 2 1-year renewals. STX will perform these services for the city of Grand Rapids for a flat commission fee of 10% net proceeds for the sale of RNG, RINs, and additionally, STX will provide regulatory services for administrative functions not otherwise provided by our existing QAP service contract for a fee not to exceed $113,000 annually. What I would like to point out about this contract is the STX, their revenue is based on a 10% net proceeds. So they're not only driven to seek the highest dollar amount for our RNG and RINs, but also find ways that we can cut our costs and provide a better service for all involved.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was a very detailed, thorough explanation, and I know for those of us around this table who weren't a part of this initially, I'm sure that was really helpful. I'll say a couple things, having been involved with the decision to move forward with the building of our anaerobic biodigester. And feeling really proud to have the partnership with the Rapid and DTE at the time when we did that. It is always disappointing when EPA comes in and changes the rules midstream and makes us have to recalibrate and pivot. But I think big picture, commissioners, for me, we are still taking waste and we are turning it into energy right here in our city, which is a good thing for our environment. It's a good thing for our community. It's a good way to use that waste in a productive form. And then secondly, the big thing is we are shifting our partners away from our original partners. Do I wish that those key partners, DTE and the Rapid, could have been our partners for a decade or 20 years? Yes, my answer is yes. However, that's not the case because now we're all forced to comply with additional regulatory requirements coming from the EPA. So I also serve on the Rapid board, so I'm wearing two hats, which I often do. Just to let you know, the Rapid board hasn't made a decision yet on their partnership and who they will be using for this project. So that is on our board agenda tomorrow. So I'm glad to see this come before us first. And then I also want to say how much I appreciate the Rapid in working with us to make sure that we had a thoughtful transition period so that we wouldn't have a gap in not just the production, but also the sale of our renewable natural gas, or that we wouldn't be able to meet the EPA guidelines. So, Deb, thanks for being here today, and your team for working with our team to get us to a good place to move forward. I'll open it up for any other questions or comments, commissioners.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I agree with everything you said. It's unfortunate that based on the new regulations, it kind of erodes an important partner of ours in the community that we kind of could see some synergies from with this project. So I think that's a bummer, to say the least. I am curious, though, if we move forward with a third-party broker, how is that going to impact like our debt servicing? Like, is there opportunity to get more competitive prices for the NRG? And could we pay down debt sooner, or is it going to be the opposite? I guess not sure what information we have on that as of yet.
We have some preliminary numbers. We don't have any solid numbers now, but we anticipate a slight reduction in revenue based on the contracts that we saw come in for the RFP. Okay.
Yeah, before you go on, I want to make sure that we.
Our CFO is coming up to help.
Yes, I can answer for the debt. We issued debt that were revenue bonds. So our first opportunity to refund would be 10 years out from original issuance. So that puts us around 2027, 28. I think the first tranche of bonds were actually in 2016, so probably within a couple of years we'll be looking at refunding opportunities, which is great. As we talked in fiscal this morning, we were talking about a rate cut, so we'll be watching for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to follow up on the question, I think what the commissioner is asking, since now we have a broker, we want the broker to be as aggressive as possible in representing our commodity to make sure that we at least stay whole, if not even have a higher return on what we were producing in terms of natural gas. And so today we're approving the broker. The broker's going to bring back some recommendations for this body to approve. And I think what you're hearing is that we at least remain revenue neutral when those proposals come back.
Yeah, no, I think that adds some good context. I guess in my mind, it's, if we don't have a certain partner we're working with and we're going forward to like the open market, I guess, so to speak. At the very least, I'm just wondering like what additional opportunities maybe there could be. And it's encouraging you mentioned based on their commission agreement that they might be, sensitive or interested in helping us, maximize what we can get from this renewable natural gas. But just curious to see what opportunities that partnership might allow or bring. And then in the end, just keeping in mind, of course, that revenue is then going to pay down the debt on the project, and how that might be impacted. So,
good questions and a great point. Commissioners, any other questions or comments before I call the question? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, thank you, Commissioners. That will take us to our final action item, and that's a resolution scheduling a special meeting of the City Commission on November 13th. This would be in the morning, Commissioners. I have down 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Is that correct, City Manager?
That's correct, Mayor.
And this is for our end-of-year retreat. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support?
All right, moved and supported, and Commissioners, that will take place here in the chambers. City Manager, you want to speak to anything that is on that agenda that the Commissioners can be aware of?
Thank you, Mayor. We're still in planning for that. We'll have some financial update on end-of-year performance. We'll also take a moment to revisit the prioritization. I know that that'll be post-election, so hopefully the candidates-elect will be able to either attend or watch, and those will be discussions obviously we'll continue to have. We'll start the prioritization for early budget preparation, and then I think the plan is to really take the balance of the morning to devote to our comprehensive housing discussion, which we'll tip off a little bit today, but that's the agenda in general.
Great, thank you, City Manager. I know I look forward to that, and I know I especially look forward to having the conversation about housing. Any additional questions, Commissioners? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, Commissioners, next before we get to our briefings, can I get a motion to go into executive session? And this is related to pending litigation and a legal opinion.
So moved.
Support?
All right, moved and supported. This is a voice vote. I'll start down here with Commissioner Goy,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins.
Yes.
Yes.
And I am a yes. So Commissioners, we will go down to the law library right after Cal, and we'll let the city attorney take it from there. All right, so with that, Commissioners, we have two presentations before us this morning. The very first one is a presentation on Arts Impact Study. We do have a number of our partners in the audience today, and I'll let either Mr. Matthews or Mr. Washington recognize them. Did you want to say anything, City Manager, to kick this off?
I'll just say this is a continuation of a dialogue. I think Mr. Matthews is going to open it up, but we're not asking for any decisions today. This is more information from the City Commission, for the City Commission at this time.
Great.
Mr. Matthews?
Thank you. So you all might recall, I believe it was early December of last year, the Arts and Culture Collective came forward to kind of give a brief on the work that they had been done over the last few years in regards to the nonprofit arts and culture community here in Grand Rapids, and some of the priorities that they'd identified, some of the needs that they had identified. And one of the outcomes of that conversation was the interest in commissioning an economic impact study for the nonprofit arts and culture sector here in Grand Rapids. So I worked with the collective to develop a scope of work that we then worked with Grand Valley State University to implement that study, and today we have some results that we wanted to be able to share with you. So just a little bit of history. The Arts Working Group, which is now the Arts and Culture Collective, they started meeting back in 2019 with a focus on developing a cultural plan, really focusing on DEI initiatives within the space, and identifying sustainable funding sources for the arts. A lot of that focus shifted in 2020 with COVID-19, but coming out of that, there's been a renewed focus on those original goals, and they continue to meet now to talk about how they might be able to achieve those goals. So as we discussed, the Commission had an interest in doing this study, and that work took place between the spring and summer of this year. And we have Christian Glipker here from Grand Valley State University, who's going to walk us through the report. He's done similar reports with some other large cultural organizations here in Grand Rapids. So it's able to apply that methodology here, and I think it's helpful. Sir?
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Christian Glepker. I'm an economics professor at Grand Valley State University. I am also charged with economic impacts when they come to the university. As Doug said, I've done a lot of them, from Frederick Meyer Gardens to Art Prize, out of the state as well. The airport was last year, Ford Airport as well. I was charged with estimating the economic impact of the arts and culture sector here in the greater Grand Rapids area. I'm going to do my best to take a 55-page study into 10 minutes. I'm more than happy to get into the weeds after the presentation. If they get too far into the weeds, we may just collect those questions and I'll answer them via email or some other method. A summary of our methodology here. The ACCGR coordinated the study for me. They were my conduit between the organizations and the information I needed. We sent out a survey to them and collected visitor information, attendance to their events, how much they spend on operations, and how many employees they have, and other capital investment. And then for economic impact, we looked at visitor spending and operational spending. And for economic regions, the way we designed our survey, we can look at, here's the economic impact that happens in the Grand Rapids area, and here's the economic impact that happens in Kent County. We can look at them separate and together. And then the benefit transfer method was used. We did not survey all visitors. As I'll show you in the next slide, there's roughly 2.7 million, 2.5 million visitors. I've done enough studies in the Grand Rapids area between Meyer Gardens, the museum, Art Prize. I have very good spending data that I can we use. Its benefit transfer method is used when surveying is not feasible, costs too much, or takes too long. You can use a benefit transfer method where you use that spending. Normally, it's out-of-market data. I happen to have Grand Rapids data, so it's very relevant and easy to move to this study. And then we use MPlan, which is the most common modeling software out there. So starting at visitors, it's where it all begins. We have 2.7 million visitors to all the events, and this is based on what the organizations told me. And then I have to start subdividing these visitors, because that changes how they're impacted. You have primary visitors, they're the people that woke up and said, I'm going to this arts and culture event. And then you have casual visitors. Hey, we were in town for a business conference, and we went to Art Prize afterwards. Well, the business conference was the primary reason they were in town. The event was secondary. So you subdivide those. And then you continue subdividing them between local and non-local. A local visitor's spending is handled very differently than a non-local visitor. Non-local is considered new spending. A primary non-local is new money coming to the area. And then the casuals, you treat them in the same manner. And then with the locals, we had two different regions, Kent County and Grand Rapids. And then with the non-locals, same thing. How many of these visitors were in the Grand Rapids area and how many were in Kent County? Now, when we're looking at Kent County, I took out Grand Rapids. So that Kent County number does not include the Grand Rapids number. It's pulled out. So we can see the two different how the two different regions. And same thing with the casuals. They all get subdivided into different categories. And then the benefit transfer method kicks in, where I look at how much are they spending on meals, hospitality, transportation. Did you buy gas while you went to this event in the area? And other retail shopping. And that gives us to our economic impact, and we're going to look at output. This is all economic activity. So for the primary visitors, when they visited Grand Rapids, they had a just shy of $60 million economic impact, and Kent County, $25 million. And then the operational spending, even though they're nonprofit organizations, they still spend a lot of money for daily operations, payroll, whatever it may be. It's adjusted for locality, so it's not total spending. And then you see the impact, $37 million in Kent County, $73 million in the Grand Rapids area. And of course, we have to look at them combined. You have economic impact caused by the Grand Rapids area arts and culture sector of $195 million. The word in parentheses there, caused, is important because these are all based on primary visitors. When we bring in the casual, we also have to include their spending. You just have to keep in mind there could be some substitute spending in there. If we have $54 million to Grand Rapids and $50 million to Kent County. And that's economic impact supported by the arts and culture sector. And then you combine them. We have a $298 million economic impact by the Grand Rapids area arts and culture sector. I believe this number to be a floor. In reality, I think it's larger. And the study will include ways for future studies to get a little bit more of an accurate number. One of the other important data points to come out of an impact study is jobs. Primary visitors and operations, so this is going to be jobs caused by the arts and culture sector. Just shy of 1,700 jobs are caused by the arts and culture sector. These include jobs where people are employed at the nonprofits and the organizational jobs, as well as induced and indirect jobs. And then you have the casual visitors as well. Their spending does support jobs in the area. And then when you combine them, we're around 2,500 jobs are supported by the arts and culture sector. Again, I believe this to be a floor. And then, with improved methods, we can get a little bit more of an accurate count. Fiscal impact, the big number, tax revenue. Primary visitors, Grand Rapids and Kent County, the M-Plan economic model looks at spending and looks at the fiscal structure of the regions that we select and can estimate the tax revenue generated by this spending. In sub-county municipalities for the GR, that's going to be the Grand Rapids number. Special districts will be school districts, library districts, whatever may be in the region, and of course Kent County and Michigan. Operational spending, again, even though they're nonprofits, their spending still generates some tax revenue. And then our casual visitors, so we have a total fiscal impact around $1.4 million to the municipalities, Kent County of around $1 million. Looking at, not up on the slide, is a question that came up in one of our pre-meetings was the percentage contribution by some of the larger players. When looking at the economic impact number, roughly 44%, let me flip this over. 46% of that output is generated by Frederick Meyer Gardens, 31% is generated by Art Prize, 8% by the museum, and roughly 3% by the Festival of Arts. Those were the main contributors. So overall, 89% of the output is from 4 significant organizations. Here's the percentage contribution numbers right here. And you can look at it. The percentage are going to be relatively consistent through the categories because of the economic modeling. Same thing with the fiscal impact. They're going to be roughly the same. Frederick Meyer Gardens will be the largest, Art Prize the second. The study will also include social impact. This is based off data from a national study. The Arts and Economic Prosperity Study, which happens every 5 years, collects national data, and they'll also collect regional data from participating organizations. And so I included a couple here because they're pretty meaningful. This question was, this activity of the venue inspires a sense of pride in the neighborhood, and you see the response from the community, how important these organizations are to the community. And then this next slide, as an economist, when looking at economic impact, is extremely important. What would you have done if this event wasn't available? And that the last bar down there, I would have traveled to a different community to attend a similar arts and cultural activity. Non-local visitors, 71% said they would not have come to this region if it wasn't for that activity. So it shows you the draw that these activities and events have to the region and how important they play in the economy. And that's 55 pages summarized to the important numbers.
I've got one more slide. I'm gonna cover
this one.
I just need the
remote.
Yeah. All right. Okay, before we open it up for questions, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that have been going on concurrently with the work on the economic impact study. So one, we've collaborated with the ACCGR to submit an Our Town grant application. That would support the development of an arts and culture strategic plan. It was one of those 3 pillars that I mentioned at the beginning. We're expecting to hear about that in March, but we're going to continue to work on ways that we might be able to accelerate that work if we're able to. If we do get the grant, the formal performance period wouldn't start until July of 2025. Separately, last month, the DeVos Institute of Arts Management announced a capacity building program for up to 15 local nonprofit arts groups. They had a meeting with interested groups a few weeks ago to kind of walk them through what that program looks like. And they're also, with a separate group from that same institute, they're doing an environmental scan of the sector over the next 3 months. It's not the same as a planning process, but it does provide us with additional information and data that we may be able to use in incorporating into a strategic plan in the future. So those are just some of the things that we've got either right now or on the horizon, wanted to make sure that you are aware of. And at this point, I will open it up to questions. Invite Mr. Glucker back up. I imagine that he's got better answers than I do on some of this stuff.
All right, thank you. This is very informative. Appreciate the information and the data collected. Commissioners, questions or comments? I'll start with Commissioner Knight.
Yes, thank you for this presentation, the information. I'd be interested in see the rest of the 53 pages you have left. Since you chose those 4 organizations, and actually, I mean, I know one's an organization, but how do you differentiate between the organizations that just do a one-time event for the year as opposed to those organizations that have a solid footprint here in the community? And then I was glad that you said something about the total economic impact as well as the jobs created, that's just kind of like a floor. Because I guess I'm wondering if in those numbers, were you including all of the arts organizations in that number, or was it just those kind of 4 that you took that benchmark off of?
Okay, good question. The 4 we picked were based on attendance figures. I just looked at attendance. I mean, I had Meyer Gardens, Art Prize, and the museum were my benefit transfer studies. I've done them recently, so I had very solid data. When I did those studies, I had student teams out there, so the data is impeccable. So their spending data was easy to use. They also have the largest attendance of most of the organizations. So those were pulled out. The Festival of Arts, same thing. Their attendance numbers based on what they shared with me. So I'm like, okay. I cut off attendance, I believe it was at 200,000. These are our big players. Broadway, Grand Rapids could have been, and they had large attendance numbers as well. And I forgot the other organization. The reason I say it's a floor is because my studies is only as good as the data I receive, and surveying was very challenging. It was a lot of repeated attempts to get responses from organizations, and I believe a lot of organizations didn't respond. Some of them I went out and just used Google to get spending data because as a nonprofit they have to file, is it 990s out there. So I can get spending data, but I can't get attendance data. So we could be missing some attendance, and if that attendance number grows, your impact number is going to grow as well. So that's why I said it was a floor. And one of the things that's going to get included in the study, it's not in there now, is in 5 years if we revisit this is probably a good procedure to have as the Arts and Culture Collective. If you're going to be a collective, maybe you should. These are some steps you can take. So for future, this data is readily available. So I'm working off survey data. It was roughly a 50% response rate from the organizations. The larger ones all responded, so I think I have a good sample size. But I believe the attendance figure is going to grow if we get more responses, as opposed to established organizations and they have a one-time event. As long as they submitted attendance and they said, hey, we had this one-time event, there was 1,000 people, that number was included in the study. There were 10 organizations that had split attendance, where, hey, we had some events in the city of Grand Rapids, we had some events in Kent County. That's accounted for in the numbers. So those attendance numbers were split up, and, if they told me, I went back to them and said, what percentage would you say was in Grand Rapids? What percentage was in Kent County? So those attendance figures were divvied up to the right regions. But if it's a one-time event, as long as they submitted me the attendance figure, it's included. And whatever operational spending was attributed to that event.
Do you have a number of the total arts organizations that you all were reaching out to?
We sent the survey out to 77 organizations. After data, we received responses from 33, which is around a 45% response rate, but some of those organizations like Steelcase and whatnot, they didn't really, I talked with them. They didn't really have anything to add because they didn't have events. They didn't really have a spending. They were just part of it. So that response rate bumps up to 50%. So about 33 supplied data.
Okay.
And that's going to be the big thing for if this is done in the future is let's get this response rate up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, other questions? Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for this presentation.
Absolutely.
It was really helpful and I think affirming of what we know to be true is the value of our arts and cultural community. A few follow-up questions. So related to the talent side of the economic impact equation, I'm curious if you looked at the economic impact of, or what the economic or other impact will be if we grew our talent industry or those who are working in the creative workforce, if we were able to appropriately retain and attract creatives to our local workforce, and if we were able to reduce any turnover in the industry. So did you look at any trends around talent, creative talent, and its impact on our local industry?
No, that was beyond the scope we had set in place. I would love to do that. This first round with this impact study, a lot of the energy was spent just getting the basic data I needed. The employment data, spending data, and the visitor data. If we can establish a good conduit of that data being readily available, then we can start, all right, let's start looking deeper into what's happening here.
Yeah.
We did look at an idea of coming up with a calculator where, if we can have some sort of economic formula where for every 100 visitors, here's an estimated impact. So these organizations can say, hey, we anticipate having 500 people. I'm still fidgeting with that. There's just a lot of noise and the margin of error is just too large because the spending is so unique. But that's about as close as we got to some sort of estimate on movement within growth or shrinkage in the industry.
Okay. Just want to say I think it's really important for us to be mindful about how we might support our creative economy and the talent that currently lives here and that might want to live here. How might we retain and attract, not just for kind of the economic impact and, running events and some of the things that you mentioned, but also to add to vibrancy and quality of life that is so essential to kind of locals as well as visitors alike. A second question, follow-up, kind of speaking more on the dollars and cents side. Did you look at revenue? Did you look across the arts and culture industry and look at revenue for organizations, like sources of revenue, distribution of revenue between different types of organizations within the arts and culture?
No, with economic impact, the revenue is not an important data point as the spending is. We looked at the organizational spending. We didn't dive too deep into that spending. It was just adjusted for non-cash items such as depreciation, et cetera, in locality. We want spending that happened in Grand Rapids or spending that happened in Kent County. If they bought something outside the region, we don't want to include that. As for revenue, I didn't have the capacity to look at individual organizations' revenue, where it's coming from.
Understand that might not be as.
Yeah, I do believe that that's something that the Voss Institute is going to be looking at. So that environmental scan is kind of a check on the pulse and the general health of the organizations that are within the sector. So I think that's where we're going to start digging in a little bit more to some of those questions, because that's something also that's going to have to be addressed when we talk about a strategic plan. Is how do you manage the health of the sector, and how do you do some of the things that you just talked about, which is build, retain, and encourage the talent that we have that's working in that space as well.
For sure. And what I know about the industry is that oftentimes, particularly most organizations are funded through grants, grant awards, and donations. And that particularly on the grant side, a lot of those larger organizations are competing with smaller organizations, and they often win out. And so I'm really curious about how that distribution is within our city, how often our smaller, more local, women and folks of color-led organizations are often subcontracting and kind of being used for their expertise without being the primary awardee. I think that has a lot of implications around equity in the space, investment in the space, true impact in the space, and how that impacts the vibrancy of our community and kind of our attraction to visitors and talent. So in that vein, my last question is, did you disaggregate in any way any of this economic data by organization size, type, diversity of leadership, length and existence? Or is there any way that we can dive deeper to understand kind of more specifics?
I didn't do that. I think it can be done with a properly structured survey, asking the right questions. It's going to come back to getting the organizations to respond to the survey, because I can only work with what's given to me. But I can most certainly, I have I have 33 organizations. I could have done an independent study for every single one of them based on visitors and organizational spending. I don't know, none of the survey didn't collect anything on leadership. But it's most certainly something we can work with the collective on how we design in the future. Yeah. Most certainly. Yep.
Thank you.
And also, I want to, I'm saying, the response rate issue, this is very common with businesses. Mm-hmm. They don't respond to, so it's not unique to the collective that these organizations didn't respond. Anytime you survey an organization, you always have to go out and kick the tires to get the data from them. So
I've done door-to-door surveying. It's the same thing. It's hard.
It's really hard to get a response.
That's why I try to answer the ones I get in the mail just to give back, just to contribute.
Yeah, please answer survey.
Yeah. So I think these are great findings. I think it confirmed what we already suspected, that this industry is really important and has an economic impact. I am a little disappointed that some of those items around equity within the space, talent within the space weren't investigated. I understand it was outside the scope of this particular study, but those are the things that I believe are more actionable and insightful for us to know, right? And so I'm glad that there's a plan forward, it sounds like, to do a more in-depth landscape scan and just really urge that we take that lens of looking at talent and looking at equity within the space and how different organizations are positioned and supported in order to really grow and make sure this is a well-rounded, equitable industry that contributes to our community and that folks can contribute to. So those are the end of my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I appreciate this. And of course, I know with an economic impact study, the scope of the examination is limited. And I think all of us share a real appreciation for the role that our arts and cultural community has on our entire city and the people who live here and visitors, the impact that it has on our social and emotional health and quality of life, and the fact that it makes us a great place to live, whether it's some of the smaller events in our neighborhoods or the larger events downtown. They're both important. And I always go back to what I say often around this table is that it's an and, right? That we need to be supporting some of the large-scale events that we know drives visitors to come here and supports our local businesses, but we also need to make sure that we're supporting our smaller venues as well. And so I appreciate this information and recognize that it's just one piece of the bigger story. And I think it is informative, but I also think it helps us to identify what we want to do next and where we want to go next, both as a city but also as a community, to make sure that we are elevating, uplifting, and supporting our entire arts and cultural sector. So thank you for that. Commissioners, if there's not any other questions or comments, I'm going to move on to our next presentation. Appreciate all the guests who are here today, who are active in this space and working hard to not only bring forward good data, but also to come up with a very strategic plan on how we make sure that this remains a priority in our city. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. All right, commissioners, with that, we're going to switch gears from arts and culture to housing. We have our partners at the Grand Rapids Housing Commission with us today. And I recognize the important work that they do, but they are one of the many organizations that we work closely with, and we will be getting a full overview around what's happening in our housing space, around both how are we working to house individuals who have experienced homelessness, to build more affordable housing, low-income housing, as well as just make sure that we're increasing supply across our city, knowing that currently a big issue that we have is supply and demand, and that's really putting a pinch point on our housing industry. So with that, though, we're going to talk about one of our, I would say, most important partners, longtime partner of the City of Grand Rapids, our Housing Commission. With that, City Manager, anything to add before I turn it over to Lindsay?
I think my comments earlier, Mayor, alluded to this being the foundation of our discussion. And as we talk about, as you said, as we talk about housing affordability and low-income housing, that the Housing Commission is probably the largest organization in the city that focuses on that, and a lot of highly skilled, talented professionals doing this work year-around and for years, and so it would be incomplete without having their work highlighted as well as their plans for the future. So appreciate Ms. Reams here and several of the board members here today.
Thanks. Making sure this is on. Good morning. It's still morning. Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners, for having us here today. Also, just want to acknowledge joining me here today is our Manager for Policy Program Planning and Implementation, Jose Capellas, as well as our President Chair of the Grand Rapids Housing Commission Board, Monica Steinle-App. So I promised I was going to try to keep my comments to 15 minutes, but I will commit to anyone who wants to dive a little bit deeper. You are always welcome to visit the Housing Commission. I love to take people on tours. It's going to be, I could talk hours about the things that we're currently doing and things that we're planning for the future, but I will limit my time. Let's see. There we go. Mission, this is the same mission I shared with you a year and a half ago or so, but we are in the midst of a strategic planning process and do anticipate rolling out a new mission, vision, and core values. And our vision and core values will be the first time the Housing Commission has actually had those components related to our strategic planning process. So more to come on that. Just a little bit of history for those who don't know it. The Housing Commission was established in 1966. It is an enabled body based on state statute. We provide low-income housing or affordable housing to low-income residents. The initial statute was also created to address blight in substandard housing conditions. We still do some of that by inspecting all of the units that we provide subsidy on to make sure they are decent, safe, and sanitary. Our primary funding source is HUD. About 90% of our revenue comes through the department. We are independently administered and governed by a 5-member board, which is appointed by the city manager. Our programs, our numbers of units have increased since the last time I was here. You can see the breakout by program. Grand Rapids Housing Commission is unique in the state in that we administer almost every program that HUD has for public housing agencies. Many agencies just do public housing or just do the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And so we touch other parts of HUD with our multifamily property. We have some programs that are sold. There's only like a a dozen of them left in the country. But we do have to have a diversity of expertise to administer all these programs. As you know, federal government comes with lots of statutes and regulations. So all of these individual programs also have their same set of compliance requirements. So we're at about just under 4,300 units, affordable housing units in the community right now. You can see that's one of our sites. That's Campaw Commons there. One of our largest programs is the tenant-based voucher program, and this is, most people are familiar, used to be called Section 8, based on the section of the statute, the authorizing statute. We call it the Housing Choice Voucher program right now. That's over 2,500 units. We also have 460 special program vouchers, so that's where we serve foster youth, veterans, homeless, and disabled program participants. This is a tenant-based rental subsidy, so it stays with the program participant as their needs change and they move from unit to unit in the community. The subsidy stays attached to them. Household income must be 80% of AMI or lower. We also have to make sure to be in compliance that an average of 75% of our households admitted are 50% or below of AMI. The program participants generally pay 30 to 40% of their monthly adjusted household income towards their portion of the rent. And then, of course, the subsidy payment picks up the difference between that and the contract rent. We serve households who are renting private property in Kent and Ottawa County. This is called the Housing Choice Voucher Program because it offers participants opportunity to move to neighborhoods where they want their kids to go to school, maybe where they're employed, maybe where their doctors are. And then opening the waiting list at the end of this year. We actually we had our waiting list opened last summer, and we'll talk a little bit about how many we have on that list. Our second largest program is project-based vouchers, and what that does is take a portion of our tenant-based, our housing choice vouchers, and allow us to attach them to units with our affordable housing, other affordable housing provider partners in the community. So we have units in properties. Those of you who have joined us on a tour know that we have units in properties owned by ICCF, Dwelling Place, Genesis, tons of other affordable housing providers. There's 805 of those vouchers that are leased. We have actually awarded over 1,000 of those vouchers to date. Some of them are in the construction phase. And so a really important part and large part of our program as well. In this case, the subsidy is tied to the unit. So as the family moves up and out, that subsidy then stays with the unit, so it is made available to the next eligible family that occupies that unit. Similar to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, it's 80% of AMI or below, and we have that same 75% of new admissions requirement. This is also 30% of adjusted gross income. On this slide, we give you a little bit of demographics. So you see the breakout by race and ethnicity in the pie chart there. And then you also see the demographics. So even though we are serving over 4,000 households, that translates to almost 8,500 individuals in the community. 3,600, a little over 3,600 minors. So children are a very important part of our program. You can see the average annual income, the average age of our program participants, how many elderly households we serve, how many disabled households we served. Average family size is 2. We do serve families, but we also have a very large portfolio of senior housing. Contract rent, $1,147, and then the portion that the federal subsidy picks up, the average payment is $849. We also broke down our program. We serve all of Kent County, but we wanted to specifically highlight what our program does in the city limits of Grand Rapids. So of our total program size, 2667 of those units are actually in the city limits of Grand Rapids. And then you can see the average contract rent and HAP payment, average income, average age of household, and then the average family size, all very close to the overall demographics. So you can see the blue dots represent, and there's a lot of dots on top of dots, the blue dots represent those units that are subsidized in the community with private landlords. The yellow dots are GRHC owned and managed properties, which are higher density. We also broke those 2667 units out by ward. So you can see how that breaks down by each of the wards. You can also still see the individual dots as well as the GRHC owned and managed properties. So you can see there are some parts of the community that don't have affordable housing provided by or through the Grand Rapids Housing Commission at all. We are studying a lot of that data, and we are continuing to do outreach in communities to make sure that there are opportunities for residents who need affordable housing, who want to live in those communities. See, the average family size in Ward 1 is a little bit lower than our average size of 2. More senior properties in this ward. Here are the demographics for Ward 2. Again, very similar numbers across the board. And then Ward 3. We also broke out our housing assistance by the 3 highest dense zip codes. So you'll see the darkest blue colors there, 49503, 49504, and 49507. These zip codes do cross the wards, and so we thought this would also be interesting information for you to have as well. Again, very similar data. I will note that in 49507, we do have a higher average family size. We do have more families living in the 49507 zip code. But we also do have a higher income average in this zip code. Our Housing Choice Voucher waiting list, as many of you know, was opened last year for 1 week. We actually had less applications than we expected. We had about 7,700 applications in that week. We took applications all week, and then what we did to make it fair for everyone having an equal chance to be placed on the waiting list was to do a randomized lottery. We placed 5,000 on the waiting list. So you can see in this year we have served just about 150 from that waiting list. And there's some reasons for that we'll talk about. We talked about the project-based voucher program, and so the non-GRHC owned properties, their waiting lists, including duplications, because people can put their names on multiple waiting lists, is over 87,000. GRHC owned assets, a lower number because there's a lesser number of those properties, but that's still over 15,000 people waiting. That includes duplications as well, but waiting for their turn at affordable housing in the community. So what have we focused on in the last couple years? So we've spent a lot of time working on enhancing our partnerships and engaging in community collaboration. And so you just see a few of them here. This graphic is actually very large. It's just condensed a little bit on the screen, but some of our major partners, City of Grand Rapids, as Mayor Bliss mentioned, we value our relationship and our partnership with the city and do a lot of engagement with the various city departments. RPOA, we've done a lot of work, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, with landlords in the community. Network 180 has been a tremendous partner with us, helping us serve our households who need some additional assistance with substance abuse or mental health challenges. HUD, of course, is our major funder. We also launched this year, earlier this summer, a new partnership with Job Corps that we are really excited about. So being able to match the skill sets that the 300 youth are learning through the Job Corps with some of the services we provide. It's been so nice to see them engage. They volunteer at many of our community events, and just trying to figure out when they graduate from the program, how do we address their affordable housing needs as well. Recognitions over the last year or so, Grand Rapids has been, the Housing Commission has been recognized in a couple of areas around our award-winning green building at Antoine Court. Many of you have toured Antoine Court, our property on our newest property. It's almost 3 years old now on South Division. Recently, we received 4 awards of merit through the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Authorities, and a lot of that focused on our programs. We pride ourselves at the Housing Commission on trying to address the needs of our families holistically. So not just addressing housing, but all of those social support needs and those economic opportunities they might have through home ownership and self-sufficiency and savings accounts, and then also focusing on our youth. One of the things we've really focused on this year is success rate. I probably shared this with you guys the last time I was here. About probably within the last 10 years, Grand Rapids, as well as housing authorities across the country, enjoyed success rates in the 80 and 90%. So what that meant was when we sent a family out with a voucher to find a unit, 80 to 90% of them. So if we sent 10 families, 8 or 9 of them were coming back successfully finding a unit to live and to use that housing choice voucher in. With the challenges in the housing market today, both with affordability and with availability, we had seen our success rate plummet to 30%, which was a really sad thing to issue a family a voucher and for us to work with them as long as we could with all available extensions, usually over 6 months, sometimes during COVID up to 12 months, trying to find a unit and for them to have to give us that voucher back. It's very sad and it's very disheartening. And so we just really set to work at how can we make more of our families successful. So even in just the last 6 months, we've increased our success rate from 30 to 52%. And a lot of that, and we're still working hard at it, a lot of that has to do with our outreach to landlords in the community. And so we just wanted to give you a quick synopsis of the landlords. We work with almost 800 landlords in our community. Some of them large scale, you can see with more than 25 units in their portfolio, receiving HAP payments on units. But the largest population landlords that we deal with are our mom and pop landlords, who this is their livelihood, and many of them really care about the families that they're housing. So 665 of our landlords out of almost 800 have between 1 and 5 units. And so we really have reached out and we adopted or implemented what we call a housing barrier fund that has 2 components. One is a landlord incentive program where we give landlords cash incentives to try the program. We also wanted to make sure that we weren't excluding our landlords who have been participating with us for all these years, so we also give them incentives for adding additional units. And then we want them to keep referring. Tell your friends who own units about the positive experience on the residents in our community, but also on the people that we serve and the good that you're doing for the community. And the second half of that housing barrier fund is available to our participants who have a barrier, and that is the only barrier from keeping them securely, stably, affordably housed. And that could be they don't have money for a security deposit, they don't have money to pay application fees. In some cases, they owe utilities, so they're not able to get utilities in their name. So that part of the Housing Barrier Fund is used to support them in those ways, so we can eliminate those barriers and get them housed. Program utilization, this has been a significant focus for us. We were down to around 90% utilization of our program. Over the last 18 months or so, we have moved to 97% utilized. Actually, it's over 100% of the funding that's available to us for HUD. When we run out of money, we have to quit leasing units. And so that's right now, there are several, actually over 800 of us nationally who are facing this issue with just not enough money to lease all of the units HUD has given us under our annual contribution contract. Some additional funding in the last couple years. We have received a Ross grant to support the additional needs for our residents at Adams Park. That is a 3-year grant. It was over $500,000 for those 3 years. The FSS, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, we continue to get operating grant for the staff who administer that program. Last year, we were fortunate enough to be awarded a home ARP grant to do some revitalization at our Hope Community property, which is rapid rehousing for homeless families. We've received additional vouchers this year to serve our foster youth, our veterans, and then HUD had some additional vouchers that they awarded across the nation. Our small portion were 6 vouchers, but we'll take any voucher that we get. We also were able to fund our Aim to Save program, which is a savings program that we're piloting for head of households and the youth in those households. Our financial institutions have been great partners. They actually fully funded that program at $100,000 over a 2-year period, and they are also providing between all of them weekly financial literacy courses on site. So looking forward, as many of you know, we were designated a Moving to Work agency by HUD, which affords us additional flexibilities. There are only 139 of us out of the 4,000 housing agencies in the country who have this flexibility. So this is an honor, and we are really excited about that. We spent our first year really just focusing on the flexibilities we had around operational efficiencies. We're also going to use some of those flexibilities when it comes to redeveloping Adams Park. And then also looking at non-traditional activities. We want to, we've heard a lot of discussion around returning citizens and how we can assist them. And so we'd like to pilot a program that provides the housing assistance. There are organizations in our community that provide lots of supports to returning citizens, but there's always that housing gap. So we're exploring right now how we use those flexibilities to add a housing component to that support. As I mentioned, we're in strategic planning. We continue to explore the families that we serve and how we best meet their needs. One of the things that we did this year was in July, we implemented a less restrictive criminal background check for our eligibility criteria to ensure that there was not a disparate impact on certain populations. And so we worked with our legal aid partners and our Fair Housing Center partners to craft that language. And so that has been something that has afforded additional housing opportunities for people that we previously would have denied based on criminal background. The biggest thing on our plate in the next 3 to 5 years is the redevelopment of Adams Park, and we will definitely look to the city as a grand partner for this initiative. We are leveraging the work that's happening in Boston Square, which is right across the street from Adams Park, to make sure that we have a comprehensive revitalization plan for that community in 49507. We've done several community engagements. We have a couple more coming up. It's really important for us to understand what the residents want in their new units. We will demolish this building, so that means we will relocate all 188 residents in that building. And so our strategy has to be very specific about timing. We're planning to start relocation probably in early 2026, in conjunction with Boston Square bringing on their 2 senior developments that they will be building there so that we can transition some of those senior residents to those buildings. Other households will move to our other properties when we have vacancies, but everyone will at least have a voucher to be able to find a unit to house them. They also will have first right of return to that property when it's rebuilt. And so you can imagine what our engagement sessions look like: dishwashers, walk-in closets, dog parks, community space. So, and we have another community event coming up on the 28th, so I encourage everyone to spend some time and come out and look at the drawings and the boards and give us some additional feedback on that. Again, I could talk for 2 hours if you would let me, but I'll stop and take questions.
Thank you, Lindsay. This is a great overview. I want to say thank you to you and your team, staff, and the board members who continue to serve and move forward this great work, as well as just all of your collaboration with other organizations as we try to meet the needs in our community. So this is a great overview. I really appreciate it. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Perdue?
Good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned on actually, let me ask a question for clarity first. I don't know what slide this is, the one with the program utilization with baseline and total leased. Mm-hmm. How did you describe what the baseline numbers represent?
So I'll just peek at my slide. You guys have them, right? You don't want me to go back to it. So our baseline units are actually on the slide. If you look on the overview slide where we had all the programs listed, so our baseline units for our voucher program is actually that 4257 minus the 203 and the 153 and the 42. So we have about 100 units that we currently are not using. So you can see on that slide, the utilization is 3421, right? Our baseline, I think, is 3527, if I have that correct. So we have about 100 units that we're not using right now because we don't have enough funding from HUD to be able to use those additional units. Again, it's a national challenge. Some of it is also turnover. So between now and the end of December, when we turn over a unit, we get a unit back either because a family has successfully graduated or they've been terminated from the program for noncompliance. We cannot reissue that voucher until January. Mm-hmm. And so does that answer your question? Sorry.
Kind of. That's really helpful context. So the baseline represents the number of units you all have available, and then the total lease is how much you're actually utilizing right now.
Yes, so our baseline actually, it looks like this slide might be a little bit off, is 3510, right? And we're utilizing, if you look at the little pie chart, we're utilizing 3421 of the units that are available.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I did have a follow-up question on the waiting list slide. Joel, if you could match the slide so we can follow. On the waiting list slide, you said you'll come back and just explain a little bit more about this huge challenge. I hear a lot from residents, neighbors, and also work with community health workers who help folks navigate and find housing. And this waiting list seems to be a huge challenge. So I was just hoping you could share some additional commentary on this and kind of what can we do, what's being done. The waiting list slide, they're not numbered.
It's on page 7. Keep going up. Yep. So
here you go, 13.
So this continues to be a challenge for us. We would love to house everyone on our waiting list. We just, we don't have enough units. The community doesn't have enough units. But on the first one, the Housing Choice Voucher waiting list, that was the 5,000. We had exhausted the last list we had, which were 19 and 20 lists. So in 23, we went back out with a new list of we had exhausted, so we did a new opportunity to apply for the waiting list. As I said, we had 7,700 families. We lotteried those down to 5,000. So there are still over 4,800 families on our Housing Choice voucher waiting list. We will continue to serve those as we have attrition, as HUD awards us new vouchers. We reasonably feel that we could serve all 5,000 usually in about 3 years. So we won't probably do a new wait list for the voucher program until then. We do have specialty voucher programs that come to us through referrals. So like our foster youth, our veterans, HUD has now relaxed our disability vouchers, our mainstream vouchers, to be able to take referrals from partners around those populations and use those specific vouchers. For the GRHC non-owned, so those are the ICCF Dwelling Place, Genesis, Samaritas, all of those private nonprofit or for-profit developers in some instances who have some of our project-based voucher units. We maintain their waiting lists at the Housing Commission. And so there are almost 1,000 of those units, some of them not built yet, but all of them will have waiting lists. And so applicants also can apply to those individual properties on the waiting list. It's a site-based waiting list, so people apply to the waiting list for the properties they're interested in. And then the same with the GRHC-owned assets. We have waiting lists for each of our sites.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
For now. Just I would love to just follow up more one-on-one and just really understand a little bit more on this issue. But I think the last question I have is, what more might this body do to support your work? It's really important. It's really critical. There's a sense of urgency. You know, those 3 years to get those 5K folks housed while there's still thousands of folks waiting and kind of in limbo. And it's a deep worry of mine. So what more can this body do to support your work?
Yeah, so this is seems like a constant conversation with our city partners, with our other affordable housing providers. We know we need more units, right? And more units takes more money. And so this is going to be, it's going to take time to be able to do this. I think where we really are looking for significant support from the city is with our Adams Park redevelopment. So we are pursuing a path that will allow us to provide or to apply to HUD for what they call Choice Neighborhood Initiatives Grant. That potentially is a $40 to $50 million grant. That won't complete the project, but it will give us a significant step up in trying to do what we need to do at that site. And so that application, which we will start talking about in January, because we're hoping the next application period will probably be in the fall of 2025. They really love to see co-applicants with the city for those applications. So we have city departments that are currently participating in our advisory committee. And then again, we have constant conversations around a number of housing initiatives, everything from the Housing Affordable or the Housing Barrier Fund, and how we can continue to make sure that funding is available, to bigger picture, right? Like how we're working on the, forgot to mention this, the 100 in 100 Days initiative. So we are a partner in that, and about 50 to 60 of those units actually are coming from the Grand Rapids Housing Commission. And so it has been a very challenging initiative, but a really rewarding initiative for all of us that are working on it and really trying to identify best practices. And it took a leap of faith for all of us to say, we're going to quit trying to plan the perfect implementation. We're just going to go, and we're going to learn as we go. And we're going to figure out what best practices are, and then be able to leverage that experience with how then we serve the next population. Chronic homeless today, homeless families tomorrow. And so So just continued support around collaborations. And of course, we'll always take money.
Well, and I will say, I appreciate you taking the leap of faith with us. I know that the 100 and 100 was initiative to house 100 individuals who've been chronically homeless was a leap of faith for a number of our nonprofits, and asking some to do things differently and to try something new to help us have a more immediate impact. So thank you for your work around that table. Lindsay, just a clarifying question. The federal grant you're referring to, that's similar to what used to be called the Hope 6 grant, is that right? They just changed
correct.
the name?
Yes, it's a replacement to Hope 6.
That's what I thought. So we were a partner, City of Grand Rapids, were very supportive of the application last time, and those dollars were used to redevelop the housing units over by Belknap. And so I assure you that the city will continue to be a strong partner and do what we can to secure those federal dollars. So please let us know. I'm assuming you're probably already working on the application.
Yes.
And so let us know how we can help in that effort. I was very active as a second ward commissioner in advocating for the Hope 6 funds all those years ago. Was that 10 years ago?
96, I think, is when, maybe 99 is when it started. I know, and through the 2000s.
And I would say it was in the 2000s when we ended up securing it. Because I wasn't around this table in the 90s, so I'm old, but not that old. So thank you for that. All right, I'll see if there's any, I think Commissioner Knight had a question or comment, and then I'm going to close this up so that we can get to executive session before back up here for public safety at 12:30. Commissioner?
Thank you. Commissioner Perdue kind of answered or asked some of the questions or thoughts that I had, but the other one was with the change of Adams Park Apartments, and you said all of those people will get vouchers, but we know a lot of those people are in there are disabled, and how is the partners, especially with Amplify, helping work with you to identify units for them? Because I know we're trying to move on to bigger and better and make sure that there's a nicer space for them, and that building has been long overdue for this work to be done. But then how do we help those people to make sure that they don't become a part of that larger number, right?
Yeah, so part of the relocation plan will include funds for either for incentives for maybe landlords to make some changes to their units to be able to house families who need accessibility. It could be bringing on a third-party entity who are helping us solidify those partnerships. We're in the 100 and 100 days, we're learning a lot about the importance of case management. We also want to make sure as we build back Adams Park that we're thinking about all of those needs that our residents have. Not just the seniors, but also non-traditional seniors who have, other needs that we may need to make sure that we address. So whether that is those services in the building or a completely separate building that specifically caters to those needs and support services. So that will all be part of the plan and the relocation, making sure that we're addressing all of their needs.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good. And I'll just add, I know we don't have representatives from Network 180 here, but they are a really strong partner in the 100 and 100 initiative. And there are 4 mental health, behavioral health specialists who are working with us to provide that case management and support to individuals who are housed. So again, a lot of people have come together to try to identify what the gaps are, what we need to do to help those individuals to be successful. So.
And they do support 2 additional positions at Adams Park.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you. All right, commissioners, with that, if you have additional questions, please follow up directly with Lindsay at the Housing Commission. I know myself and others have taken advantage of going and getting tours and spending time either with her team or even some of the board members. Ms. Monica App, thank you for being here and for serving on the board. Obviously, you can meet with any of the board members as well, and they can fill you in on some of the work that they're doing. And then, as I said, we'll have a larger conversation about housing and what we're doing in this space at our upcoming retreat next month. So with that, I'm going to close Our Committee of the Whole, we have Public Safety up here at 12:30. Tonight is our commission night out, so doors will open at 5 o'clock at GRPS University. There will be food there for folks who come to join us. We'll have a presentation at 5:30. We'll have opportunity for engagement and roundtables, and then our business meeting of this body will begin at 7 p.m. So with that, I'll, as I said, close Committee of the Whole, and I'll meet you down. Why don't we take a 5-minute break so we can use the restroom or grab something that we need? So 5 minutes, 11:40, let's meet down in the law library. Okay?